Hi everybody, welcome to week 2 of how to paint an easy forest scene. Let's go. Okay, so colors today. So I like to use colors that are within the basic structure of the colors that we chose last time. So last time we used cerulean blue and we used our raw umber and we used our cadmium yellow. So I'm going to make some greens from those combinations. If you don't like those greens, because every brand of paint is slightly different and you want to bring in some true greens and you happen to have sap green in a tube and that's what you want to use, then you can for sure bring in some sap green. But I'm going to try and make all of my greens because I feel like it makes more of a natural green. So I'm going to be using a combination of cadmium yellow and yellow ochre with my cerulean blue and also some of my raw umber. Now cadmium yellow and black also makes a really nice green. So we're going to experiment with lots of different types of greens today by mixing them because I want you to learn how to make really nice greens from mixing. So remember the color mixing that we did for the last painting? Basically the same color scheme. So I'm going to get out my basic colors and then we will go from there. Brush. So I'm using a quarter inch flat, but this is like an older one that's seen better days. They make good foliage brushes. We're gonna do this area here. So some of this foliage is still behind, and then we're gonna put in the dominant tree trunks and then put some of that foliage back. So we're gonna start a little bit backwards and then move forward. So we're gonna do this shape here that comes across to here. And then we'll be bringing in our ground area here today as well. Okay, so I'm going to take some yellow ochre and I'm going to mix in a little bit of my cerulean blue. So do you remember last time to make that pale yellow, the lime green, we just used like pure yellow basically. So this time we're going to add some cerulean blue. And it's going to have a bit more of a bluey green tinge. And to take off that bluey green tinge, we're going to add a little bit of our raw umber. And that will bring it down to like a khaki. So cadmium yellow, cerulean blue, and then a little bit of the raw umber. That will take, so when it starts looking bluey green, start adding a bit of the raw umber, and that will bring it down to like a more of a moss green. So in this kind of right in the background, the foliage gets darker and denser. Kind of in this bottom left-hand corner and at the top of the pathway, it does get darker and denser. So that's where we're going to bring in some black into the mixture. Okay, we are going to let that dry and work on our pathway. Now your pathway can be kind of a realistic color, or if you're going for more of a fall theme, you can do more bright reds. So this is all dependent on you know, how you want your painting to look. Um, so if you want it to be more natural color, then we're going to mix yellow ochre with our raw umber and a little bit of white, and we're going to warm that up a little bit. So I'm just going to get out my, if you happen to have a sienna, that would work as well. Otherwise, you can just mix yellow ochre with your raw umber. So sienna is this
Burnt sienna.
So you see, yeah, raw
Burnt or
sienna.
raw?
Can you see it's kind of quite a similar color there? It's quite a good match there. So, So raw sienna is a good one. So it's kind of this color. It's pretty much the path color. Now it's out of a tube, it is quite transparent, so you might need a few layers. And so we've got a little bit of a color family happening. Bring in a little bit of that sienna into the tree tops a little bit. So I'm going to take my yellow, I'm going to mix in my cerulean blue. We want this to be brighter than this one, so we don't want to lose that green. We can bring in a tiny bit of yellow ochre if we want. Okay, so we're going to use our raw umber with a little bit of black. I'm finding these little trays are a lifesaver, especially when I do paint nights, because now I can scrape off some of the excess paint and I'm not losing tens of dollars worth of paint every time. Okay, so raw umber and a little bit of black. So you don't want to like completely black. And we're going to start with this focal tree. So remember on our sketch, we made this a little bit larger to make it more of a dominant tree. So this is the tree we're going to be working on, this one here. So we just made it a little bit larger than the original photograph so it stands out a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to work from my sketch. So if you think about a grid system, this is halfway, so it's slightly over to the right, so it's about here. Once you've started with your focal tree, you can add a little bit of yellow ochre for the highlights. So if you think about the trees that are in the foreground, according to our sketch, focal tree here, and then the one to the left, the one furthest on the right, and then these two here. So we're going to be bringing in these dominant trees now. Okay, so in my sketch, do you remember we put in some rocks just to create a little bit more of a drama? So I'm going to bring one of these rocks kind of right out into the foreground. So so the rocks, I'm going to still use my burnt umber, yellow ochre, but I'm going to bring in a little bit of white. But I'm going to sketch out the rock shape first. So my rock is going to be right on the edge of this pathway here. I'm just going to put in the shape first of all with a little bit of my brown and ochre. I'll bring in some white there later. Let's just get the shapes in. So for now, I'm just sketching them out with raw umber and putting a tiny bit of yellow ochre on the tops. I think of a rock as a cube with light on one face of the cube, but it's like a wobbly cube. So so that's a cube, right? So a rock is basically similar, but just a bit more wibbly wobbly. So there's my rock. But think of it as a cube. So there'll be a dark side to our rock because that's kind of the flat side of our cube. There'll be a light side to our rock, top side, and then somewhere in the middle on the other side. So when you do a rock, think about a cube and where the light's going to be. So I'm going to add a little bit of white and yellow to my yellow ochre and bring in a couple of highlights on my path. This is a filbert. And can you see how it's flat on one side and curved on the other? So it's good for a little bit more foliage clusters. So I'm going to be using mainly cadmium yellow with a little bit of yellow ochre to warm it up. Not salmon pink. That was an accident. Well, the rest of the painting is just a little bit of touching up. I did go over my background trees with a little bit of white, light brown, just to touch them up a little bit, and I did bring back a little bit of the blue into the sky. But other than that, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please don't forget to click on the like button. I'd love it if you could subscribe and please share it with your friends. And don't forget to post your finished painting so I can see how you did.
I know somewhere up ahead you're back.